What's up, YouTube? Bubbles and Ball Cards back with another video. I hope you all are having a wonderful start to your week so far, and hope everything is treating you well. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe, notification bell, all that stuff. I'm going to be quite frankly upfront with you. Charts and graphs are not normally my thing. I really loved diving into PWCC marketplace research when that was available and when it would go back 14 years and I could actually look at how things went over a long period of time. You could kind of see trends and patterns. You could see a lot more in-depth stuff, not with just specific players, but with the hobby in general. And I really enjoyed doing that rather than just relying on what I like to refer to as the spaghetti noodles. So if I struggle with this a bit, I'm admitting it. This isn't necessarily my thing. I don't use this very often. The program I have up is Card Hedge. Shout out to JD over at JD Sports Cards. I have tried in the past to do videos of this just to kind of support him and share the program. JD's been a long time follower of the channel, member of my Facebook group, submits cards, all of that. But I will be honest, I am not too familiar with it. Sometimes the program does confuse me with some of the pricing, and charts and graphs just aren't really my forte, but I figured, hell, why not? Let's take a look. So I wanted to look at baseball, and originally I was going to do this on just a snippet of the past 3 months, because the seasons, we're roughly at 20% of the season now. I wanted to see how your more popular players, over the course, your Sotos, your Acuñas, your Tatises, Otanis, Lewis Roberts, those guys, see how they were doing. Obviously, Tatis is out. Acuña just came back. I wanted to see if there was any bump with Acuña's return, and just overall kind of see how things were doing. While I was doing that, I had decided that I wanted to look at something else, and that is a broad one-year picture, because what I found for the most part, and I'm going to show you this, we'll go through this as I go along, but I tossed Trout in here because he's always, he's having a good season, and he's always a good representation of baseball, in the card market. He's back. He's having a pretty good year so far. And obviously this stuff up here, this was still coming down from the highs of February 2021. But relatively over the course, I would say the last 6 months or so, outside of a few little spikies right here that I don't know what's going on, maybe this one, for the most part, he was pretty flat, kind of right across here. Now, SGC, obviously, I'm doing 10s here, and I do want to show all three companies. I know a lot of people just show PSA, and it makes sense. You see how many peaks and valleys are here. There's way more PSA transactions. I do think sometimes that's why the market is so heavy on PSA, is because most of your content out there is in relative terms of what PSA is doing. That's kind of the de facto what the market bases itself on, whether it be pop reports or values, because when people are using these charts, there's more to it. If I show this with just a few sales, it's kind of hard to get an actual clear picture, especially like I said, Trout for the most part is flat, but if you were to look at this, there's like a bump here, a bump here, and it doesn't really tell a good story. BGS, same way. It's like up, down, up, down. Almost looks like a little heart rate in a sense. But anyway, this is going by this graph, and again, graphs aren't really my thing because they don't tell the correct story. But we're going to use it just to get an idea and an overall picture here. So for Trout, I would say he's overall flat. Obviously, his price is higher than some of the other guys we're talking. The PSA 10 is showing right now sitting at $3,050. Obviously, this is a higher price card, and so the gap is, marginally significant on the PSA to the SGC or BGS. BGS and SGC are pretty close, and then, like I said, PSA does have a higher value gap there. But Trout is also a lower populated card. Again, he is a higher valued card. Not many people are going out looking to spend $3,000 on a Trout. They would most likely spend that $3,000 into something else. So that is something to keep in mind. All right, let's get into some of our more newer, heavier transacted, more obtainable guys. And we're going to start out with Juan Soto. And this is why I went to this 1 year picture. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at this graph and say, Juan Soto's flat. If you deduct whatever the hell was going on here with $8,000-9,000, whatever the hell that is there, and this 7,500 here, if you deduct those, this is like, I think, the straightest line you could possibly get. Now, obviously, it's stretched out because of the spaghetti noodles. Once again, transactions, make these graphs look differently because it's a higher transacted card. There's many of them bought and sold. But this is a clear sign. Like, it's basically straight across. And the key one, SGC gives a really, really interesting picture here. So back here on the first sale that for a year ago, it was $99.95 on an SGC 10. If you fast forward today, it's showing $96. So SGC is showing a relatively flat, just $3 difference across the line here. The interesting part is PSA back here was $225, and today it's sitting at $120. So if you had bought that PSA 10 a year ago, you're down $100 right now. Whereas SGC, and again, this isn't being in relative terms to the grading companies. I just found this was interesting because it's pretty much held a trend all the way. And you can see as the prices move for SGC, that's sales. And relatively all the way across, it's been right there in that $100 range. It's just held flat. And I felt that gave a really good picture based upon this line of how it was just straight, like flat. So that was interesting to note. There's the Juan Soto. He's sitting at roughly, now also, the gap isn't that far on these, under $25. The gap between BGS and SGC is roughly $10. But keep this picture in mind because, this is a $100 card. It's a heavily populated card, easy to obtain, heavily transacted, and it's sitting roughly around, you go, $100 average if you take all three companies and give a mean. That's also another reason why I thought the SGC line was interesting, because you take the 120 and the 86, and you got, the 206 that puts you at 103 mean for your high and your low, and SGC sitting right there at $96. So it's kind of like you're a good average point right there. And it showed for the entire year, just basically at $100. So I thought that was kind of cool. Over here you have Acuna. Once again, you got some BGS popping out. I don't know what the hell is up with those. But if you disregard these blue mountains, for the most part, once again, you see a pretty relatively straight line. You have a few purple and dark blues that pop up, like here, but overall, a pretty flat line. Now, again, Acuna he was hurt and he came back, but let's take a look at where they've been. So, starting out, SGC was at 175, PSA was at 191. We're going to disregard that BGS at 800. Let's get a... BGS was between about 175 because there was a 150 and a 199. So we'll go there. So PSA was roughly 200. SGC BGS was about 175. starting off in May 12th of 2021. Over the course of the time, I guess, let's see here, 175, and then it went down to the 99 mark, 125, 80, 100. So it looks like right in here when it hit 100, that's kind of where it looks like to have flattened out for the most part, going across. We fast forward today. The values right now is showing PSA at 88.67, SGC at 89.95, and BGS 9.5 at 52 bucks. We can scroll back. So the prior sales there was a PSA at 98, the SGC at 89.95. The previous SGC looked to have been in the 60 to 70 range there. And then the most recent sale was the $90. I'm guessing that 90 was like when he came back or whatever. But still, it's relatively close. I mean, it's a few dollars difference there, one way or the other. Even if you want to give PSA the edge, it's like, you know, maybe 10 bucks. Even right here, it's $37. So, I mean, in terms of how much grading cost, $37, you still would have to make the right choice and get the 10. So anyway, Acuna, another example, pretty flat all the way across. That's the point of this video. All right, Tatis is a little different here. His stuff kind of spikes around, jumps around, little more spikiness here. Not as relatively flat. And his prices are more on the downward slope. So if you go back in here, you know, we're looking at him, he was like little over 200. SGC and BGS were between 100 and 140, it looks like. Now that has been a downward slide for Mr. Tatis. Let's fast forward because that's where we're really looking at. You know, over the past right here, we've kind of leveled out, which is kind of like what I was really looking at. Is anything jumping with baseball back in swing? We had all of the talk, was there going to be a lockout, this, that, and the other. Baseball got it done. We have baseball. Did the market move at all? And the answer I'm seeing is no. It's really just stayed kind of flat. And it doesn't matter what player or how they're performing. It stayed relatively just perfectly flat. There was not even any like lead up. And again, Tatis is hurt. But it's been just relatively flat. I think the market has kind of, the baseball card market has kind of set itself where it wants to be at. These are all flagship cards, so they are heavily available, heavily transacted. So you do have to keep that in mind. But it's also something I like to look at because this is the stuff that most people are playing with. It's the stuff most people are getting their hands on. You know, again, you can tell by the transactions how many of them are exchanged hands back and forth. So this is what I like to look at when seeing how things are doing in the hobby. So right now, if you look at the three grading companies, the PSA is going to run you about 86 bucks. The SGC is going to be $72, and a BGS is going to run you about $41. So again, you know, looking at this, if you took the PSA at 86, the BGS at 41, you'd be at 127. So your mean price would be about what, $63.50. So, you know, you got SGC right there between them, just slightly higher than a mean price. But that's, you know, I think it's reflective to how the market is going right now. So, all right, the next guy has got me confused. This was another one why I was like, all right, let me look at this over a year scale and not just like the last 3 months. That is Mr. Otani, okay? So Otani right in here, you see he was up, and that's expected. This was in the July-August time frame, you know, right after the All-Star break, the MVP talks, you know, all of that stuff. So that's to be expected. Now, the part with this card that I don't understand, and relative to the guys I just showed, he's really had last season, and then he came into this season, and he hit a grand slam, what was it, last night, I think. But overall, he hasn't done anything relatively, like, amazing compared to what he was doing last year. And the biggest question mark I have for this card is this is his card number 700 from Series 2, which comes out of complete sets, and, you know, you can pull it from packs and all of that. So this is a card that is definitely, you know, it's similar to Tatis, where it's easy to obtain. You could get a complete set and pull the card. This one kind of really surprises me. But anyway, we'll go back over here and look. This card's going to change dramatically. So May 10th, a year ago, this was $72 in a PSA 10, $20 in an SGC 10, and we didn't even have a value on a BGS 9.5. We fast forward today, and it's trading at $197.50 in a PSA 10, $61 in an SGC 10, and $30 in a BGS 9.5. So this card has essentially increased from, you know, we'll go $72 to $197, so it's went up $120. Even the SGC value is up from 20 to 60, so it's 3x'd over the course of the year. So this Otani number 700, again, easy card to get, has went up significantly. It also is reflecting in the gap of the grading companies, because your mean price, if you go with the PSA and then the BGS, you'd be at 227. So you should be at 113.50. And that's $50 higher than what the SGC is sitting at $61. The gap between the PSA and the SGC is $136. So this card has me confused. You go over here to his update, which is US 1, and you're getting a more relatively flat line trajecting across, more heavily traded, a more flat line than you are this one. So even though this card is easier to get, and I would put money it's probably higher populated, I didn't look up the pop reports, but just based off of, you know, the sets and all of that, and then you come to this one, you're seeing two different stories. So I found that really interesting with it. Take this card, it was $42 a year ago. It says the SGC was $80. Again, sometimes this stuff confuses me here. Alright. This was 96 and 80, so I guess the PSA went from 42 to 96. Sometimes, again, that's why I liked looking at actual sales rather than just spaghetti noodles. But anyway, when we go over here, this one still has a pretty wide margin. It's showing 122 for the PSA, 50 for the SGC, and 59 for the BGS. So in this, if you take your high and your low, you would be at 172. It's still, the BGS would be pretty well below what the mean average is, since BGS comes in second on this one. So just the Otani market is interesting. Alright, let's go to this. This is Lewis Robert. He's one that I was curious to see. He's having a pretty good year so far. He's batting, I actually have his stats up here. 272, 5 stolen bases, 4 homers. You know, not too terrible. Doing pretty well. The hip injury, looks like he's recovered from it. He's back. But his card values is scary. And what I mean by scary, this is the guy for 2020 that everybody wanted. Like, he was the man. And obviously we know there was more cards printed and everything, but this was 2020. 2021, Topps printed even more. In 2022, now with Wander and J-Rod and Torkelson and Witt and all those guys, we know there's even more being printed. If this is a reflection of the increase in print, this is a huge red flag, guys, and I want you to pay attention to this. Screw all of the other ones over here. We've seen they're relatively flat. The grading companies are doing what we expected. You know, the prices where they are. The PSAs have came down a bit. The SGCs have rose a little bit. You know, that's what the market has talked about. I'm not saying any one of them's crossed the other, but I'm saying they're kind of flattening out a little bit. The gap is, except for Otani. Otani's weird, and the Trout, because the Trout's a higher value card. For the most part, you know, they're leveling off. The market is settling into what it wants to do. This is a red flag, though. And again, this is not anything to do with the grading companies. You need to look at this and think about the prints, and is this going to reflect on the future, like Wander Franco 2022 Topps? What is this going to look like for his card, even if he does have a great career, even if he does, you know, play decent like Luis Robert? What I'm seeing here right now, if you look at these numbers on a Luis Robert, all three companies are trading at under $20 for a gem mint copy of a 2020 Topps Luis Robert. That is freaking scary. Look at this. And it's not just like the final value of it or the final sale. You know, they've been at like 20 to 30 bucks. And I think it's just there's so many of them out there. You have the Wander hype now. 2021 was an odd year. We had the market going down. The buzz of 2020 and early 2021 was wearing off. There wasn't any like flashy rookies in baseball. And now we have 2022 and Topps is just pushing out so much product. Is this a cause to the Luis Robert pricing? Is this going to be reflective into what we're going to see over the next couple years on these rookies? You know, I'll be honest, I had a bunch of base Wander Franco Topps and I sold them all at one time in one lot. I kept the short print. I don't even know that the short print is necessarily going to be that short printed. I think that at the end of the day, the pops could reflect that the short print Wander Franco might be more in line with like a base set, flagship, maybe Tatis. You know, I don't know if it'll be necessarily that high printed, but I could see it reflecting more in terms of a flagship from like 18 or 2019, just based upon the increase in print runs. So this is a good one to pay attention to with the Robert prices. I mean, right now you cannot send one in because you're going to lose money on it. No matter what grading company you're using, you should not be sending in Luis Robert Topps base. That's unfortunate because I'll be quite honest with you, I am sitting on stacks of Luis Robert flagship that I never sent in. But at this moment, and with the current grading prices, you're going to take the L. You could gem every single card and take an L because of what they're trading at right now. So that's a good one. It's the guy from 2020. He hasn't been terrible. He did have the hip injury, but he's still playing well. He's gotten a gold glove. So just something to keep an eye on there. I thought it was very interesting how pretty much all of them were relatively flat. You know, Tatis had some bumps in the road. Otani, I cannot explain his card number 700. It doesn't make any sense. The update looks more in line with these guys. So, you know, that one makes more sense. And then you come over here to Robert, and it's just like, yeah, it's bad. So that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, I apologize. I'll try to do more of these to get better at the charts and graphs. I'll try to talk to JD a bit more, maybe to get some more explanation or like advice on reading what Card Hedge is saying here, because there was some things I'm not going to get into, but there were some things with some of the pricing that confused me. But anyway, I just wanted to share this. I thought it was fun. I love baseball, and I wanted to see how it was doing. So anyway, that's all I got for you guys. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. As always, stay safe, stay healthy, and until the next video, I'm out.